So again, thank you for joining our fourth LCAP this school year. We just are on the heels of presenting a mid-year update of our LCAP to our school board last week. Previous LCAPs, we have focused on our initial budget conversation, as well as our instructional services goal, which is a big portion of our LCAP. Again, tonight we will be focusing on goal 2, 3, and 4, the remaining goals of our LCAP, and talking through the metrics as well as the current status of the action items that we are funding for this school year. We do have one additional LCAP meeting scheduled before spring break, and that is in March, where we should have an update on our budget for second interim. We will also present what we are proposing for next year's budget at that meeting. So with that, we will get started. I will be talking somewhat slow for our translators. If you do have questions, we encourage you to post those into the chat and we can respond directly via chat. You can also pause and respond to any questions during the presentation. And then we will have time at the end of the meeting if anyone would like to unmute and ask a question directly of myself or Dr. Knapik. So goal 2 is our educational services goal. Students will be physically, emotionally, and mentally healthy and supported through parental involvement as measured by state, federal, and district assessment tools, including the California dashboard. This is really supporting the whole child here at our schools. Goal 3 is to recruit and retain quality employees as measured by full employment of teaching staff with appropriate credentials and placement on the appropriate assignments. Goal 4 is the efficient and effective operations as measured by appropriate facilities, especially classrooms that are conducive to the needs of the instructional program. So those are our 3 remaining goals of our LCAP. We're going to start with the metrics that we use to measure progress towards our goals. This is an overview of all of our metrics. We do have a mid-year update on the majority of our metrics. We have in educational services 12 metrics that are on track, 3 that are off track, and 1 is yet to be determined. Our personnel services goals, we have 2 that are on track and 1 off track. And we are on track with our 1 facilities metric. Overall, we have 37 metrics that are on track in our LCAP. We have 19 that are off track and 8 that are yet to be determined for this year. And just to remind people, this is a 3-year LCAP. We are in year 1 of a 3-year plan. These metrics and the goals we hope to obtain by the end of the 3rd year. So when we're tracking whether we're on track or not, it isn't at the conclusion of this year. It'll be at the conclusion of year 3. We're just on the right pace to make that goal. So this page is our first set of metrics for our goal 2, our educational services goal. And you can see we start with A through G completion. We discussed this at the board meeting last week. This is an area where we are monitoring closely and hope to increase significantly over the next 3 years. We actually took a step back from our baseline in the spring of 2023. We believe there's some technical things we can do as far as reporting to improve that A through G rate. Now, we've also invested a lot into math and a new investment into English to help increase the number of students that are passing classes with a C or better to remain A through G compliant. The next set of metrics are our graduation rates, where we did quite well as a district. 93.2 for all students is a very high graduation rate. We increased that from last year to this year and are at 96.3. So when we compare our graduation rate to other districts, we're doing outstanding in the Southern California region. We also track individual subgroups where you can see how we did with specific subgroups in the plan. Another metric is our suspension rate, where we've improved. What improvement in suspension is the percentage of students that have been suspended has gone down. School attendance, we've also increased from the baseline in 22-23. We hope to increase by 1%, and right now we've increased by 2. So if we can maintain, we would love to meet that metric. We will continue to see if we can increase. Chronic absenteeism rate, our goal was to decrease that by 9 percentage points. Right now, we've decreased by about 5% across the district. This was a number that inflated during the COVID pandemic and subsequent years. So we're trying to get back to students attending school on a regular basis. Dropout rate will be we've always had a high graduation rate, a 4-year adjusted cohort of graduation rate. This is a unique rate that's determined by the group of students when they enter high school. That cohort is not just the seniors of the graduating class, it's the students that were in that graduation group all the way through the 4 years of their high school experience. Middle school dropout rate, we will have continued to maintain that at 0% dropouts. And then our last metric is the expulsion metric. We continue to have not expelled any students from Burbank Unified the last 2 years. Our last set of metrics for goal 2 are survey metrics. These are part of our school satisfaction survey, where we monitor specific questions and the percent of students, families, and staff and their responses, positive responses to those. We have 2 of those metrics where we've seen increases in the right direction. One metric where we can work to do better, and that is a sense of connectedness, that we can continue to monitor the responses to that school survey question. We're going to move to our goal 3 metrics. Again, goal 3 is our personnel goal, to hire and retain high quality staff. These metrics also have survey data connected to them, as well as a metric for personnel and administrators meeting alignment with state certification requirements. So you can see we've made 2 of the 3. The one area where we're not on track is the survey related to our DEI, our diversity, equity, inclusion work, and how staff, students, and parents have responded to those questions. Our last metric tonight is in goal 4. This is 100% compliance with our facilities inspection tool. So this is a process by which we monitor our school site facilities and determine if any repairs or maintenance needs to occur and follow through. So we have continued to meet that metric of completing that process every year to address any facility needs. We're now into the next phase of the presentation. We will be sharing some information about expenditures this year. So at first interim, this was calculated at the end of October, beginning of November. We have spent about $9.5 million in our goal 1 instructional services goal. We spend about $2.5 million in educational services, our goal 2, and $141,000 roughly for our personnel services goal, our DEI work. Our total projected expenditures for this year is in line with what we budgeted of $12,168,518. Carryover from last year has been unchanged. That's last year's carryover. Our projected revenue this year so far has stayed static as well. So our projected carryover for next year originally was $340,000. We're looking at approximately $373,000 in carryover dollars to next year's plan. So now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Knappich, who's going to talk us through the specific actions within our goals and that we are funding this year and how they provide services to our students.
So I wanted to provide just a short little reminder and an update of where we're at in terms of our action items under Goal 2, which is also, just as a reminder, educational services. So within Goal 2, we are funding 5 teachers at Monterey High School. And you can see to the right, the original budgeted amount and then the revised amount from the end of October, beginning of November with revised numbers. For our second action item, we have our school-based counseling provided by FSA of Burbank. And you can see what the estimated costs are there that we predict will be for this school year. We have secondary credit recovery, which is a combination of summer school and the Apex platform. That's a flat $130,000. Next item is our elementary at-risk intervention specialists. We have 11 specialists at each one of our elementary schools. And you can see their salary and benefits here to the right, $1,028,044 is estimated for this school year. We have an attendance specialist that's focusing on our foster and homeless students. And you can see a portion of that person's salary. We have the Hanover survey, the climate and health survey, and you can see the estimated costs there, as well as some focus groups that we do through the Hanover survey. And just a matter of fact, today we went over some of the research that they have been providing for us for this school year too. And then we have staffing for our SOAR program. It says CDS, but it really is Monterey. So you can see the salary and benefits there for 1 teacher, 1 para educator, and 2 specialists. Goal 3 is the next action item, and this is under the human resources goal. There's only 3 items here. We had planned to hire a consultant to do work with our teachers and with our administrators on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And since then, we've decided to go ahead and do that in-house. So between our assistant superintendent for instructional services, Dr. Macias, and our director of elementary education, Ms. Harris, they're taking the lead on DEI and serving as that the leads for that and replacing the consultant. And so they work directly with our administrators and then our teacher leads from each of our schools. That next item you can see there, DEI site teacher lead stipends. There are 2 to 3 lead teachers at every school that carry out the work that is trickling down through our curriculum and through our instructional practices at our school sites. And you can see that they do receive a stipend for each of the semesters that they're working. And then there's also some collaborative work that the DEI leads are doing to meet and to cooperate and collaborate with each other. So that's kind of it in a quick, short nutshell. Goal 2 and Goal 3. Goal 4 does not have any LCAP funded items.
Thank you, Dr. Knappich. Just want to pause for a second. We've gone over metrics and now we just went over the action items and these goals. If there's any questions, please post those to the chat. Happy to respond, provide any additional information about any of these items. As far as budget planning for next year, just want to share some information that is valuable for our next meeting on LCAP when we will propose a budget for next year. Keep in mind our funding is generated by this group of students that are shown on this slide, our free and reduced meal program participants, our foster youth, students experiencing homelessness, and our English learner population. In total, they make our unduplicated pupil count. Unduplicated is a term utilized because these students only count once, even if they meet multiple criteria. Each student that qualifies under any one of these criteria generates approximately $2,000 in revenue to the district. That is the LCAP budget. That is our supplemental budget. Students who generate these dollars should receive the benefits and the services provided by these dollars. So it is a requirement of the LCAP to generate the fund or to steer the funds towards services that increase or improve services for these students. When it comes to budget for our LCAP, we've been spending down a significant reserve of carryover that we were able to accumulate during the COVID-19 pandemic through ESSER funds and other one-time monies. We were able to pay for some of the items within the LCAP using those funds and generate a significant reserve for our plan. You can see over the past couple of years, we've been spending down that reserve to the tune of about $1 million each year. And now we're at a point where we will have exhausted our carryover except for what we can carry over this year to the tune of about $300,000. So you can see the ending fund balance of next year. If we're to not change anything about our LCAP plan, we would be spending in the red by about $500,000. So we had started initial conversations this year, knowing that we were going to have to trim our plan and our budget by $500,000. We've presented to the board last week an initial proposal. We're seeking feedback from the board and from the community. We will have a discussion as part of this LCAP process in March regarding the proposed budget for next year. This is a process we do engage with community members, students, staff, our administrators, our bargaining units to determine the best avenue forward for next year. The plan will come back to the school board in June, where there will be a first reading and a approval on the second meeting in June. So we do care about everyone's participation and their perspective when it comes to how we spend our supplemental dollars for next year. I do see that there's a question in the chat. Does this amount regarding the free reduced meals get distributed evenly? How does it exactly work? It's a really good question. So there's two separate funding sources that are generated by the free and reduced meal program. One of those funding sources is Title III, which does get directed to sites based off of the percentage of students that are in that program at that site. When it comes to LCAP supplemental dollars, those dollars are pooled together as a district to provide these services for all sites. So in some sense, yes, they're distributed evenly, but we also, within our action items, often specify certain programs or specific schools that have a high population of either free and reduced lunch or English learners. And Dr. Knappich would like to add to that.
I think Dr. Anders made a small little mistake, misspeaking. He said Title III, but it's Title I. So monies for Title I schools is distributed based on our free reduced price meal lunch. And for a school to qualify for Title I funding, they have to have a 35% or more free reduced funding rate. And so that's an equal amount of money that goes per free reduced child to that school for Title I purposes. Title III is funded through Title III English Learners Funds, which is a different fund.
Thank you, Dr. Knappich. I mixed up my titles. That is the only question we have in the chat currently. Happy to take any other questions. That is it for our slides for tonight. Shorter presentation on goal 2, 3, and 4. I want to take just a moment to make sure I share the date of our next LCAP meeting, where we will talk in more depth about the budget for next school year. And that will be on March 12th. So stay tuned. March 12th, we will be presenting a budget update and a proposed budget for 25-26. Again, tonight, goal 2, goal 3, goal 4. We already went over goal 1, instructional services. If you'd like to review any of the previous LCAP meetings or discussion, you can do so by going to our website. The recording of those meetings is posted, as well as the presentations. Tonight's presentation will be posted probably tomorrow or Friday on our LCAP site as well. So with that, if there's no other questions, and again, you're welcome to unmute yourself. I'll give it just a little more time if there's any questions for us. Otherwise, that's this evening's presentation. Okay, thanks everyone for joining us. If any questions do arise after tonight, you're welcome to email myself, Robin Anders at burbankusd.org, or Peter Knappich at burbankusd.org. Thank you and have a splendid evening.